Hey everybody, Resident Loser Jeremy here. The thing I want to talk about today is the biggest kind of mistake or wrong way of thinking that I had when I was just starting as a younger engineer. I love to watch paint restoration. Sounds stupid. Stick with me. I'll post one of my favorites in the description if I can remember. It's very calming to watch, so often I'll have them on kind of at the studio while I'm just doing what I'm doing. It's amazing to watch them turn something from what a painting is and what we could look at as it is now and turn it into something that was the artist's original what the artist's original intent was. And it's amazing to see how they can do that. They have to be so skilled themselves as artists to be able to do this. This is somebody who does not understand painting restoration. So let me start by saying I do not understand what it takes to restore a painting, but I like watching it. So this is my very bare understanding of what I think I'm seeing. So someone highly skilled approaches a work of art with the sole intent of bringing out what the artist had originally intended. In the case of a painting, what it was originally, what it was when the artist had originally brought it out. And obviously time decays it, being in a museum, just contact with air messes with paintings and a whole lot of other things that I just don't understand or know the first thing about how to fix. But these people will take that and restore it to the original intent of the artist. What's particularly interesting about it is that there's no ego involved. These people, though they are unbelievably talented in their own right, the goal when they're doing this is not to put their own fingerprint onto the painting. It is all about how do I restore this to its maximum capacity given the original intent of the painting. And I think there's a whole lot there that we can draw on as mixers and as producers or even musicians. Obviously the similarities here are pretty transparent. My biggest mistake was trying to copy others. It's a kind of a blanket statement. There's no one real mistake here. It's my way of thinking was wrong when I started this. I was really concerned about what does XYZ mixer do? What does my favorite mixer do on this record? I want to see what his EQ was. I want to see what her compressor settings were. I want to see what all these amazing engineers were doing and take their presets, right? And you can see that there's still that culture. And it took a long time to shake. And maybe there's some truth behind it, or maybe there's something to that approach, especially larger studios are harder to come by, and especially getting an internship in any one of those places is hard. So there is a certain level of, let me see what you're doing so I can replicate it. I understand that, but what you need to wrap your mind around is you're not going to get the same results. If you have the same files and the exact same performance, you could approach it, but there are so many variables in play that you need to learn the tools and you need to learn your own taste. That's a huge part of this, is what do you like and what don't you like? That takes time and it takes listening. And I think what I was doing for a long time as an engineer was I was watching and I would let my eyes tell me if something was right or wrong instead of listening. I mean, of course I was listening, but unless I'm just a crazy anomaly here, I feel like a lot of you can relate to that. There's certain rules that we've been taught. Record as hot as you can before it clips, or only do subtractive EQ, or don't compress beyond -3. There's so many of those rules, and especially in the digital world where if you want a visual representation of a sound, you can find a way to get it. We too often will lean on that side of things, thinking we're going to break a rule, thinking we're going to overstep our bounds as an engineer, or we're just going to try to completely recreate someone else's work without being concerned with the song that we're working on, the artist's vision that we're dealing with, and we're kind of bypassing that and going with this thing. And the intent is good, right? We're looking at these other engineers because they're successful, because those records were awesome, and because we love those records. But if you get too caught up in that, you really lose sight of either your own work that you're working on or the artists that you're working for and trying to bring their vision to light. And that was honestly my biggest mistake. Once I kind of threw that out, I feel like I really started to make some of the best mixes of my career. Now, I don't think I'm the best mixer. I'm not even the best mixer that I know personally, so I certainly don't think that. However, I do want to bring this up because even a lot of the comments that are on the videos that I am making, I'm getting like, hey, what did you do here? Or people are finding me on Facebook and Instagram, by the way. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram if you want to. They're messaging me and asking me what my presets were for XYZ. And there's certain situations where it's like, okay, that's a valid question. But if we go too far down that rabbit hole and just try to recreate somebody, you're not going to do it. If I give you my presets for what I was doing on the snare on that hardcore song I recorded for my songwriting video, which I'll link it up here. If I give you my presets on there, you're not going to end up with the same result. Don't get too caught up in that. These are things, if you just stop and listen to one, the song, two, either the artist you're working with or yourself and your intent in what am I starting with? What's my end result that I want? You can build your own case here for what's supposed to happen. And the song will let you know what it needs. I think the minute we start reaching for something else externally to tell us what's going to make this song work, we've already lost the game because we're not focused on the artist's vision or our own vision, and we're not focused on making a song the best the song can be. We're kind of forcing our hand and trying to bend it into something that it's not. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of solid learning that could happen from looking at somebody's presets. If somebody doesn't want to share them, you can't get a hold of them, don't think it's the end of the world. There's no shortcut to this. You're going to have to learn and listen and develop your own taste. And it took me a long time to realize that. And I think for myself, I found myself listening to a lot of maybe one or two genres of music, listening to records that were really, really old. I feel old. My favorite bands that I would constantly listen to. And once I forced myself to really get outside of my comfort zone and listen to music that I don't think that I like, listening to top 40 stuff, really trying to listen and hone and figure out what's happening on the Billboard charts, really listening to the radio and seeing kind of the patterns of what the market likes within different genres. You can really see some patterns, and it's eye-opening, to be honest. Some of the things you think really, really mattered, they don't really matter. At least that's what I found in my own work. Once I let go of that thought in my head, I was able to really focus on emotion and focus on the impact that a song had and really focus on the arrangement. Because if you don't have a good arrangement of a good song, you can have a good song. If you don't have a good arrangement to go along with that, it's going to be really hard to get a good mix. And I feel like that's a lot of times forgotten because nobody cares what your snare sounds like if your song sucks. And on the flip side of that, if your song is a #1 Billboard chart-topping song, the vast majority of people will not care what the snare sounds like, or what the bass guitar sounds like, or what anything sounds like, as long as the work as a whole is good. So my biggest mistake as an engineer was focusing in way too much on the small minutia details and getting too caught up in the rules of how I was supposed to treat any given track at any given point. And my mixes really lacked an identity. They really lacked focus. They really lacked kind of an emotion and a soul. And once I scrapped that, and I still have bad mix days, I have good mix days, I have bad ones, we're all going to. But as an overall arc of my career, I feel like once I got rid of that thought, then I was able to make some of the best mixes that I've ever made and some of the proudest work that I've done. And oftentimes it takes a lot less work. If you're focused on those things that make a song good, and having the audience in mind, having the artist's vision in mind, the job's honestly a lot easier. It's easy to get caught in the weeds with this stuff. And I feel like I just wanted to share how I took a step back, and maybe you can too, and just do this as an exercise. Maybe go with your gut sometimes and just see what happens. There's been times where I felt like I needed to process something, like a bass guitar or a drum set. Felt like I needed to process it a whole lot. Took it to the car, took it home for a day, really listened to it, hated it. Bypassed everything, went back to the board mix, and I was like, man, I really got a good sound from the get-go. I really only need to make these small little adjustments and it'll be where it is. And the artist liked it that much more. That was eye-opening to me, that you don't have to go through these steps. There are no steps. There's no rules here. There are things that can help your education along the way, but don't feel like you have to do something because someone on YouTube tells you to do it. Obviously, this is coming from someone on YouTube who's telling you to do something. But just take a step back. definitely keep a vision of your song. And if you can hold on to that, hold on to what is making the song cool, hold on to how can I enhance the emotion rather than follow these rules that are set forth, you're gonna have a better song, honestly. Anyway, I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. If you guys like this one, go ahead and hit the like button. Consider subscribing, because I do this a lot. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next one.